Hello and welcome to Financial Fridays with CalCPA, where we dive into common and not so common financial topics of interest. I'm your host, David Lowe, Senior Program Manager here at the Society. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for additional CalCPA content. With us today, we have John and Brianna Schultz, both are CPAs, who will discuss the 3 hidden costs of home ownership you should consider before you buy. I'll go ahead now and turn it over to them for their insights.
We're happy to be here. So I am Brianna Schultz. I'm a CPA and an audit manager at the firm Rogers, Anderson, Malady & Scott. I also just go by Rams. We're based in San Bernardino. And this is my husband.
I'm John Schultz, and I'm a CPA at a completely different firm. I'm actually a partner at Ginsky Mulder & Company. We're an original firm here in California based out of Ontario for our office. So, our topic here today, we want to talk about 3 hidden costs of buying that first home. So the first one that we thought about was deposits for upgrades. If you want to talk a little bit about
this is something that we experienced firsthand and that a lot of first-time home buyers might not even be aware of. So when you go into new construction, new development, and you see all, you walk into the model and there's all these beautiful upgrades in the cabinets and the floors are wonderful, and you're like, I want this house as is, just like this. Okay, well, those are all additional upgrades. From the base cost of the home. And most, I'd say probably all developers require some sort of deposit on those. I think for ours was 50%.
Yeah.
So that was pretty substantial. They tried to sell you on the point that yes, it's going to be rolled up into your mortgage later, and you'll get kind of the refund through the escrow process, but it's still a lot up front that maybe you were not prepared for. I mean, cabinets and floors, all of this can easily. I think our first, run of all of our additions, when the grand total hit, it was like $50,000. And they said, okay, now you need to pay 50% of that right now. I said, okay, let me take back a few things that I said. That's not going to happen. So.
And then we started thinking let's make sure there's structural things. So it was like converting the garage into an actual bigger living room or something like that. That's something we couldn't change after the fact. So we're like, okay, that makes sense. But then the cosmetic things were like overpriced massively. That hidden cost is definitely a big one that you've got to come up with on a new home purchase. So then that's a little bit exciting, but then we'll get to a little bit of the boring stuff. So we figured we'd throw in the interest rates and some other things that are in there right off the bat. So the one big, huge thing. So knowing the fact that home prices are rising massively, we've got these huge costs for homes, and even in our area around here, we see that home prices are easily above $500,000. And, to get a traditional mortgage, you've got to have 20% down. That's a very, very large amount that most people don't have just sitting in their bank account. So most people get, they go with an FHA loan, small, 3.5%, great. But then there's also PMI associated with that. So that extra is going to be an extra percentage point onto your loan that adds to it and adds to your cost of the loan monthly, and then adds to the overall cost of your home significantly over those 30 years that you're making payments on it. So, you've got to be aware of some of those costs. Now that we've done a lot of the conversation on the fun stuff, we're going to get to a little bit of the boring side here regarding, cost of a mortgage and what goes into some of the other costs of your property. So most people do not have the ability to make a down payment right now. Housing costs are going through the roof right now. And so, for example, right near us, a small to mid-sized home is going for $500,000. So 20% of that to be required for a down payment is a ridiculously large price. So most people get, we had an FHA mortgage on our first home. This home, in fact, and before we were able to refinance it. So if you're not able to get the 20% down, great, you put your 3.5% down, you get the FHA, but then PMI kicks in.
So what's PMI?
So that's primary mortgage insurance. So you're actually paying in case you can't pay on your loan, the mortgage gets paid from this insurance that's kind of going on behalf of this. And it's really an extra point, if not 1.5 points on your loan, which is another percentage point and a half potentially on your loan, which increases the cost of your home, on your physical payment itself and on the mortgage. And PMI for now exists for the life of the mortgage unless you can refi. And then there's additional.
And it's not reducing your principal payment. I think that's what some people think too. It's pretty much just tossing it to the bank.
Yeah, exactly. You're just paying the bank for having your loan. And then additional costs. If let's say you bought a small home, $200,000, that's great. But if you buy a more, much bigger home, $400,000 or $500,000, property taxes is a big cost that people don't factor for. Then they go up, and then you can very easily look up everything online regarding property taxes. You're like, oh, it only cost me $3,000 for this home. That's before it gets reassessed for you to buy the home. So when you get the reassessment, the property taxes go up as to your actual market value of the property when you bought it. So that cost can increase as well. On top of that, insurance costs. So perfect example, state of California, we've had fires for the last 4 or 5 years running. Those are actually causing all the insurance costs for the state of California to go up multiple fold. So when we first moved in, sure, insurance costs are maybe $800 to $900 a year on this house. They've now tripled over the last 4 or 5 years. So, we're talking almost $3,000 a year to insure this home, and that cost goes nowhere. Most people don't exercise the need to have their property insurance, but you have to have it. It goes along with everything else. So I'd say those are some more of those costs that go along with the mortgage and the overall kind of upkeep of what's happening with the cost of the home monthly.
And our third and final point, it's kind of a hidden cost. It's a little more exciting, but many people forget about it, is the furnishings, the improvements, the maintenance that goes along with having a home. If you have a pool, we can kind of start, most people, if you're moving into a home, sometimes it's, bigger, better. Maybe you're moving from an apartment up into a new home. And so obviously the furnishing that goes along with that, your couches might not fit from your 1-bedroom apartment, or your bedroom set might look dwarfed, and now this, 2 to 3,000 square foot home, whatever you're moving into. And so furnishings are a huge cost that, it doesn't have to be immediate, but your house will be a little empty for a while until you can build that up, and it does take time. Other improvements that you might want to make are painting, new carpets, things like that. I'd say yard maintenance, external maintenance, pools, landscaping is a big cost that people don't think about.
And then just considering the everyday costs, like if you're walking into a home and solar versus non-solar for some of those regular monthly costs. So with solar, great, your electricity bills could be almost nil, but without it, and you've got home with poor insulation or an older home, and you've got the AC costs in the summertime because California is not a cool weather state, and that gets to be pretty warm, and you want to stay cool sometimes. So all those costs come together, and you've got to consider really all of that when you're moving into that new home. To go, when you're walking in there, what are these things? Have they factored for these into the home? And when you're having that conversation with the old homeowner, with the real estate agent, and when you're looking at all these homes, what are the actual differences between these homes instead of just size and how pretty it looks from the outside, or someone installed something new and it makes it look pretty for that little bit, but how else is the rest of the home going to cost you? Yeah, correct.
Well, thank you, John and Brianna, for sharing your expertise and insights on those hidden costs of home ownership. And thank you for watching today's video, and please stay tuned as we plan to release a new Financial Fridays video on the first and third Fridays of each month. So definitely stay tuned. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.